Moving on to another useful function, this is the offset formula. This will allow us to select a cell or a range of cells that are offset from a location. Let's have a look at the formula in action and then look at it in a real case scenario. So obviously the function is called offset. If I pick a cell over here in our sales 2013 file, we can see it in action. So it's equals offset, open brackets. Now it requires a reference. That reference is a cell that will deal as the starting point. So let's select this cell here as our starting point. And then we decide how far offset from that starting point do we want to be. So comma. How many rows offset do we want to be? Now that can be a positive or a negative number. But bear in mind, this is our starting point. If we put a negative number, it will go up. Put a positive number, it will go down. So I'm actually going to put -4, which moves us up 4 cells, comma. How many columns do we want to move from our initial offset? Again, minus number will go to the left this time, and the plus number will go to the right. If, however, I put 0, then I remain in the current column. So I'm in column B, I remain in column B, but I've moved 4 rows upwards. Now those are the compulsory values for our offset function. We'll look at the optionals shortly. And if I close brackets and return, I will get the current value of the offset cell, and that's 34. So I've used the offset function to say, let's start here, but let's move up 4 rows, don't move any columns, and return me the value. Any of the 3 parameters that feed into this offset can be a calculation, so they could be based on other formulas to decide which cell we would like to move to as our cell. Now obviously this just offsets a single cell. If we wanted to create an offset from a set point that is a range, then we need to use the 2 optional parameters, the height and the width. So let's see those in action. So equals offset. I'm going to take the same starting point, so that's B6. I'm going to move upwards -4, and I'm going to stay in the current column. So effectively I'm selecting the same cell, B2. If I then want it to select a range, rather than just move the offset of the cell, that offset cell now becomes the starting point for a range, and I can give it a value in the height to tell it how many rows to include. So I could include 4 rows. Based on the fact that we're now here as the starting point, it will then come down 4 rows. So it will extend our range by 4 rows, comma, how far wide do we want to be? Let's go to 1, 2, 3. So we'll have 3 in the width, and then close brackets. So this offset is now defining a range. So if I press return, you see we get hash value because it doesn't know what to do with that range. If, however, I embed that range in a sum function, so sum, open brackets, offset, B6 -4, 0, 4, 3, close brackets for the sum and return, I get 271, which is the grand total of these cells here, which is the total in this box here, 271. So I've used the offset there to define a range. Now it wasn't happy with the range being defined, but it's happy to use that range inside another function, be that min, max, average, count, whatever you want to use to run against that offset function that is now defining a range as opposed to a single cell. And just like when it's used against a single cell, any of the 5 parts of our offset function can be provided by another function, so they can be calculations. So we can be calculating the range that we wish to deal with. The next step is to see the offset function in real live action.